and then we'll be happy to get into questions. If you do have a question, please just go ahead and raise your hand, and then I will message you in the chat when you are up. So Travis, go ahead and start us off when you're ready, please.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Commissioner Yormark, pleasure to see you. My friend, thanks for making it work. To our Big 12 and KU media partners and friends and all the great work that you're doing, thanks for joining us today. Really an incredibly exciting time frame moment for the conference at large, certainly for KU when we think about our affiliation with the Big 12, where the Big 12 is heading under Commissioner Yormark's leadership. I don't think there's ever been better alignment amongst the board, the presidents, the chancellors, as well as the ADs and far beyond. And I think this announcement today with Big 12 Mexico is indicative of the really transformative and progressive way in which the conference is moving forward. And again, Commissioner Yormark, thanks for joining us with our media here today. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Travis. Thrilled to be here.
Okay, if you have a question, please raise your hand, and we will get started with questions. Shay Wildeboor, go ahead and you can start us off.
Hey, thanks, Daniel. Hey, yeah, this is Shay Wildeboor with JayhawksLand.com for either Travis or Mr. Yormark. There's been some talk that the game between Kansas and Houston will be a non-conference game, and I just wonder if you guys can touch on that, or if true, how that works.
Travis, do you want to speak to that, or you want me to do that?
Go ahead. I'll add a layer to it, Brett.
Yeah, I mean, so again, thank you for having me today, guys. It's obviously a conference game, but it's not going to go against the conference record. Based on the format and scheduling that we'll probably speak more about here, in the near future. Certain teams are going to, from a conference perspective, are going to play other conference members twice and others once. In the case where you're only playing an opponent in the conference once, we are going to have some other opportunities for those for a second game, like Mexico City. It won't count against the conference record, but it will be obviously effectively a conference game.
Thank you.
Henry, go ahead.
Yeah, Henry Greenstein here, Lawrence Journal World and KUSports.com. Travis, I was just wondering, because you guys don't have the same kind of proximity to Mexico as some of the Texas schools, what do you see kind of the benefit of this sort of game being for KU?
I think, thanks, Henry, for joining us, and obviously welcome to Lawrence and KU. I think it's multifaceted. I think any of the institutions can see the need to not just help expand the Big 12 brand, but really each institutional brand. We know the world's gotten smaller and smaller all the time. We know both the market of Mexico itself more broadly, Hispanic populations in general. When we think about every state in the U.S. and certainly Texas, Oklahoma, and of course in the state of Kansas, we think there's a student recruitment opportunity. We think in particular the sport of basketball resonates at a really high level. There are millions upon millions of basketball fans in that country and in the Mexico City proper. And then the last thing I'd say, Henry, is it's really great from a student athlete experience perspective. We get a chance in December of 24 to bring a group of men and young women to a place in which I would venture to guess none of them have been to. They're going to get some cultural immersion and education that they otherwise wouldn't have received. They're going to get a chance to make a difference in the community in all likelihood, and they're going to learn and grow through that experience, and of course play in a world-class arena in front of a crowd of what we think will be 20,000 plus.
Thanks,
Henry. I would just add, and Travis said all the right things, obviously, but I would say the sport is so global now, basketball, and basketball will be a catalyst for us as we think about international expansion and building our brand. And you only have one chance to launch a new initiative. And for us at the conference, it was critically important to have two of our biggest and most profound basketball brands kind of breaking into the marketplace. And thanks to Travis and the coaches at Kansas, for them to raise their hand and sign up, to be a part of what I think will be a very, very special moment. And, basketball really resonates in that marketplace. If you see the success the NBA has had, they've been there, I think, since 2011 or 12, and have had an enormous amount of success. In fact, when I was the CEO of the Brooklyn Nets, I brought the Nets there in 2016. So as Travis said, world-class venue, 22 million people in Mexico City. And I think it's going to serve as a wonderful student-athlete experience. And also seeding our brand there, not just for recruitment, but also for enrollment. Two of our institutions currently have offices in Mexico, Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. So it's a natural opportunity for us, just given, the geographic footprint of the Big 12. So excited that Kansas has raised their hand, and I think it's going to be a special moment for us.
Thank you.
Hey, Travis, I just want to check in. So did Brett come to you with this, or is this something that when this idea was broached that you went to Brett and wanted Kansas to be a part of?
Good question, Jordan. I think, certainly this is the brainchild of Brett and his leadership within the Big 12. It was eagerly and immediately embraced by the ADs and then got great traction amongst the coaches. They came to Kansas and asked us as, what we believe to be the leader in basketball for the Big 12. And again, we enthusiastically agreed to provide that. And Houston makes a lot of great sense as a new member and an outstanding basketball brand as well.
Hey, this is Matt Tate in Lawrence. Hello to both of you. I wonder, are there NIL implications here or challenges here when you start talking about international competition? Does that change anything? And either one of you can take that.
Yeah, I'll jump in.
You go ahead.
Go ahead, Brett.
You go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, no, I think honestly, Matt, we see it as an opportunity. We know there have been successful NIL ventures out of the country. We know that our international student athletes don't have those opportunities in the States. And so, for one, if you think about our women's basketball roster in particular, a heavy international group on that roster, this would conceivably provide them maybe their first and potentially only in a given year NIL opportunity. And so we see opportunities there. We had a call with John Williams, who works for Brett on the basketball side, and literally spent some time discussing that yesterday.
Great. Thank you.
If you have a question, please raise your hand. Jordan, go ahead.
Yeah, Travis and Berk mentioned the football scheduling. What do you think about this Illinois game being moved to Friday and being in prime time?
Well, I think for any of us who've followed Kansas football, this program, where we've been this past fall, where we're trying to go, it shouldn't be any surprise that we haven't gotten very many phone calls and invites to be on prime time over many a year, quite frankly. And the young men in that program deserve a chance to play in front of what is really, 3, 4, 5, 6, potentially X times the eyeballs they're going to get on a week 2 Saturday. Week 2 Saturday in college football has some of the best matchups the entire year. The reality is, at this juncture, Kansas and Illinois wasn't going to be elevated to a primetime network or slot on that Saturday. ESPN, a great partner of the Big 12, and certainly Kansas reached out to us and invited us to fill that primetime role Friday, and we couldn't be more excited. I mean, I think it's an incredible opportunity for our entire institution to demonstrate what it is, what's special about the University of Kansas, what's special about that environment for football on a Friday night in particular, and then the direction of this football program. So for us in every evaluation, it's a win. We know there's certainly some potential inconveniences for some segment of our fans. We're sensitive to Fridays in terms of high school football, and we're working actively to try and come up with ways to be better partners and open up some other doors for our more local high school football program. So really excited about where that's going.
Hey, Travis, just to follow up on that, obviously the Missouri State game was moved to a Friday as well. Can you walk us through kind of the thought process there, moving that from the Thursday to the Friday?
You weren't. The release is supposed to focus on Illinois on Friday, Michael. Come on, man. You're clever. You're picking up on these other dynamics. I would just say this. You know, we have again we put out a Thursday night opener with Missouri State. We apologize to those fans that certainly will impact and does impact to some extent. We hope there's enough runway and advance notice for people to adapt to the shift to Friday. And ultimately, it had a lot to do with the ability to get this Illinois game that next Friday. We really needed to move from Thursday to Friday. And it was a bit of a valuation. And ultimately, we just determined that the Friday night against Illinois on ESPN2 primetime was that important and that potentially impactful for our program.
Hey, Travis. Hey, Commissioner Yormark. Vince Lumbergy with WWW TV in Topeka. Both of you can answer this. We know how the Big 12 Conference, right, is becoming kind of a global brand, looking to add some new schools. We already have. There's some rumors that UConn could come to the conference. Just talk about the global brand of the Big 12 Conference and what you guys are trying to accomplish with maybe expanding the conference and what you guys want to do, obviously here in the future too.
Well, I mean, I'll jump in and obviously encourage Travis to do the same. But ever since I've arrived here as the commissioner, I've had the narrative that I want us to be a national brand, perceived to be a national brand, and then to the extent we can, through our geographic composition and makeup of the conference, be from coast to coast, and that has not changed. And I'm pretty adamant about it. And as I said last week, coming out of our board meeting at the Greenbrier, if there's opportunities that present themselves that are additive, that afford us the opportunity to kind of reach some of the goals that we've set for ourselves, we're going to pursue it. And, we are having conversations, meaningful conversations. We do have a plan in place. As I said last week, obviously, I think basketball is undervalued in many respects. And, I'd like to double down on basketball, but certainly not compromise football. We know football is the driver here. But we do want to be national. We do want to elevate and amplify our brand. I think today's announcement is an example of that, obviously, as we think about our international strategy. And I don't think there's been a better time than right now to be involved in this conference. Very excited and bullish about our future.
Travis, you talked about it before, Shreyas from the Kansas Star, but you've talked about it before about what it means for Kansas football to kind of be put in the limelight. Is this the next step for Kansas football overall? A primetime game on Friday, obviously ESPN coming last year to campus. What is the continuous steps overall?
I think it is, Shreyas. I think in life and in sport, the building is the most exciting, I think, invigorating aspect, right? So it's really hard to think about Kansas men's basketball to sustain that level of excellence, but there's a tendency for any of us to take it for granted. When you think about the history and the journey for Kansas football, I don't know that there's a more potentially inspiring story out there at this level of college football than what's happening in Lawrence under Coach Leipold. And I think that's what the media has demonstrated with this, and in particular what ESPN is saying is we think that's a storyline that's worthy of a national audience. When there's so many great stories in college football, there's so many quote unquote blue bloods out there that you could put in that slot. For Kansas football to be selected, we hope and believe that's got a chance now to be a more regular element for us and for college football fans across the country and across the world. So I think it's an appropriate step, and we're going to very, very much make the most of it.
I'll jump in here if that's all right. I'm going to go back to the basketball trip to Mexico that we were originally talking about, if that's okay. And I apologize, I may have missed the first question or two, but either one of you guys can answer this. I guess for Brett Yormark, how big is it just to have basketball blue blood, potentially the leader in the country like Kansas, and not only to launch something like this, but to do it with Kansas?
I think it's fantastic. It's the ideal scenario for us. When we had this idea about extending our footprint into Mexico, I had the opportunity to chat about it first with Travis, and was seeking not only his advice, but his participation. And like everything, he raises his hands, and if it's in the best interest of the conference will be there. And again, you only have one chance to launch a brand in a place like Mexico City, and doing it with Kansas is incredible for us. And then obviously, when you think about Houston and their success under Coach Sampson, and also geographically where they're located, it was a natural for us. And I'm just thrilled that both schools and both the men's and women's coaches have been very eager about this opportunity. And, obviously our goal is to play there annually. So this will be the first of hopefully some very major moments for not only our basketball brands, but for what we do in Mexico.
And if I got you on a Zoom with KU and we're talking Jayhawks, I got to ask about Christian Brown right now in the NBA Finals. I'm going to assume you've taken notice of that. How big can that be he's not the only Jayhawk, obviously, but just for him to be doing what he's doing in his rookie year, imagine that doesn't hurt the Big 12 at all.
No, listen, it's great. And if you've been following us on social, we're paying homage to the alumni that are doing great things out there. And we've had a lot of fan engagement around his performance. So we're thrilled.
Not bad for a kid from Burlington, Kansas. Huh, guys? Pretty cool story. And of course, for us, the way he represents KU, that passion, that energy that he helped bring in national championships to Lawrence. We don't do it without him that year, certainly. And then the way he's continuing to elevate the University of Kansas, Big 12 basketball in a lot of ways, shining the spotlight at the highest level, alongside arguably the best player in the world. Pretty neat.
Absolutely.
All right. Do we have any other questions? All right, Commissioner Travis, thank you so much for joining us and talking some exciting Big 12 initiatives today. And if there's